Alright, so there are some other ways to do through hole. These are all through hole and it's single-sided. And I should show you, I don't have a sucker, so I can't do the solder sucker. Honestly, that's the least favorite way of removing solder, if you ask me. I prefer the tap the board thing. That works better for me. Heat up solder, tap the board, the solder falls out. But sometimes that's not a good way to do things. Sometimes you want to do things a different way. And this time, I'm going to do it using solder wick. I'm going to get some flux. And the first thing I'm going to do is cut off the end, because I'm going to use the end. And I didn't want all that solder on there. And then I get some flux on there. And so, I'll go ahead and mark. I'm going to remove this part here, and that has that one, and that one. So those three leads. It's kind of hard to see in the camera there because this big stupid part is in the way. Probably didn't pick the best part as an example, I suppose. What? It's really hard to see, but I've gone and pulled the solder out of here, here, and here. Not all the solder, but enough that I can see the lead and how they're clenched, and straighten the lead out. And see, this one's clenched over facing away. Yeah, those two, the farther two, still have solder in there to remove. So, get my wick back out, clip off the end. See, I've got like that much over there. Nah, we don't need that part there. Go ahead and put some fresh flux on it, and go back in. Try to get the rest of that solder out of there. Already got that lead. Well, that's when I tore the trace up. Good thing this is scrap. All I'm really interested in is the part. So, yeah, part comes out, and the leads are a bit bent up, but you can straighten them out with the tweezers. And that's usable. So that's another way that you can remove parts. I don't usually do that very often because it uses a bunch of solder wick, and it's also kind of the easiest way to damage something. Not the easiest, but among the easiest. You can see here I lifted the pad because you got to push down and get that solder wick into the areas. And when you push on these traces with a hot iron, it makes them want to delaminate and peel right off. So, solder wick isn't really my favorite, but there are times where it's the way to go for one reason or another. Maybe I can show you on another one where it's easier for you to see the wick working. Alright, so let's pull out well, let's pull this capacitor here at the end, just because it's at the end. It's that one there, this here, and so got some flux, and I'm just going to spread it around the part there, try to get it around. Alright, we can see. I'm going to heat this up and try to suck up all that solder. So one thing to make sure that you do when you're doing this, normally, like if you're repairing a part, is when you move the solder wick, make sure it's hot enough. Because if it's stuck and you try to move the wick, you can pull off a trace. The other thing is to not push down too hard. And I did a bit of that on the last one. That's why that pad lifted. So now that we've removed the solder, there's a little bit left in there that you can't really get to, and it's kind of difficult to break that part free, but we broke that part free on this side. Now break this one free on this side. And we can get the part out. Over here. And we've extracted that capacitor. Yeah, there we are. So, kind of slow doing it that way, and it's a lot of fiddly work, and there's a good potential for damaging stuff. So that's why I just don't do that very often. But there are some times where it's that's the best way to do it. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get my iron under there, and heat this up. Yeah, that one side's already pulled out. See how? It's pulled out. So, it's a lot quicker, obviously, just using the tweezers and pulling it out than using the solder wick, which is, a good reason to not mess with that solder wick. But another good reason is to not damage the board. There we are. get this little capacitor here. Yeah, I won't. I'm just gonna be done with it. So that's another way to remove parts and solder.